Hi there. In this lecture, I'm going to show you how you can clone a pattern, and then we're going to have another look at synthesis. So, first of all, I'm going to show you how you can clone a pattern. So, for example, I have this chords part. I'm just going to right-click on this track 4, which will then solo this track. This is different to soloing in the mixer. As you can see, every channel in the mixer is active. This is a good way if you just want to hear what's going on one of the tracks. So I'm just going to listen from bar 21. Okay, that's absolutely fine, but in the next section of the song, I would like a different chord pattern. So, to duplicate a pattern, you simply go over to the pattern in the pattern picker, right-click, and go down to clone. So now, we have another pattern, which is a clone of the original. So I'm just going to give this a different colour and a different name. It's going to go down to rename, and I'm going to call this alt chords for alternative chords. And just as obvious in the playlist, I'm going to change the colour. And then hit enter. So now when I draw in a part, you'll see there I've got these alt chords and they're a different colour. So to edit this pattern, all I need to do is open up Piano Roll. So I can either double click on this region, or I can click on the piano roll up here. I know which pattern I'm working on because of the name up here. So just to keep the track more interesting, I'm going to change these chords a little. I'm going to delete the second, third and fourth chord by clicking and holding the right click on the mouse and scrubbing over these notes. Now I'm going to select the first chord, and instead of having it just going over one bar, I'd like it to now go over 2. Now I'm going to duplicate this chord by holding Shift and clicking and dragging. And I'm just going to change these lower 2 notes. So the C, I'm going to move down to a B. And the E, I'm going to move down to a D. So I'm just going to go back to pattern mode. A shortcut to skip between pattern mode and song mode is the key command L. Just remember to use these shortcuts. Make sure you've disabled the piano keyboard. See, now it's flipped over to pattern mode at the top. I'm just going to hit spacebar to play. Now I'm going to press escape to minimize the piano roll. So if I go from bar 25 and play onwards, we can see we've got a different section for the song. Now something else I'd like to do while I'm working on these chords is change the sound of the instrument a little. So I'm just going to open the channel rack, and here we can see mini synth chords. So I've just clicked on that to open up the instrument. So this instrument is the mini synth. We looked at this briefly earlier on, however I'm just going to make a couple more changes. So in this main oscillator window, I'm going to leave everything as it is. And this time I'm going to go over to the filter. So you just click on the tab at the top. Now listen to what happens when I move this XY pad around. We're able to adjust the cutoff and the resonance of the filter using this pad. So at the moment, it was in the bottom right corner. But I know later on I'm going to want the lead part to take up the higher frequencies. So I'm just going to pull this cutoff down to around the middle point. We're just reducing the amount of high frequency content in this instrument. The next thing I want to look at is the LFO. So I'm going to go to the tab at the top here. And now, similar to the 3 oscillator synth we looked at before, we have an LFO. The layout is very different, but it does the same thing. So here I can change the shape of the LFO from sine to saw or square. I'm going to leave it on sine for the moment. So here, I'm just going to change the rate. And here we have the destination. So we can have it modulating the filter, the frequency, or this oscillator modifier. I want to use it on the filter at the moment, so it'll have a similar effect to moving this cutoff slider around. So, at the moment it's set to 0, so there'll be no modulation. Now, if I turn this, it's effectively moving this around in time with the music. This can be a really good way to make your part sound more interesting. If I had it on the frequency, for example, the LFO is modulating the frequency of the oscillator. So, it's pretty much the same as adjusting this transpose dial. But obviously that's going to move these chords out of key, so we don't want that. So I'm just going to leave it set to filter. I quite like it on this setting, as it gives the chords quite a bit of movement. The last tab we're going to look at now is the effects. So the synth has some built-in effects. I'm not going to use the delay for the moment. I'm just going to click on the chorus tab that's down the right-hand side. If I turn this chorus on by clicking on this switch here, I can adjust the amount using this slider here. You can hear there, it gives it a bit of a richer sound. This mini synth is great because it's easy to use and you can quickly make your sounds more interesting. Okay, great. I'm quite happy with this sound now, so I'm going to listen to it in the mix. So I'm just going to close this. I'm going to minimize the channel rack, and now I'm going to unsolo this track by right-clicking again on this icon. Now you can hear the chords pulsating in time with the music. Okay, so in this lecture I showed you how you can clone a pattern, and also another quick look in synthesis, this time focusing on the mini synth. Thanks for watching.